All right. Welcome back again for another edition of our chats about behaviors. So today, we're delving a little bit further into the behavioral terminology. Thanks everybody for all the feedback that you've given. Apparently the slides were a big hit, so now I'm stuck. I have to provide slides, a lot of pressure. So we're always appreciative of the feedback, so keep the feedback coming. Anything that you think we could improve on or anything like that, make sure you comment to us and let us know. Let's go ahead and get started with our talk today then. So, behavior principles are basically derived from our understanding of how our lives are shaped, right? It's through observations, through experiments, it's through all of these kind of things. But really, all of these terms that we talked about last time and all the terms that we're talking about today are really a reflection of life. It's a reflection of what's actually going on, and it's describing all of the events that are occurring around us all the time, every single moment of every single day. All of these processes that are occurring, from reinforcement to punishment, are forces at work that are occurring on an everyday basis with all of us. It occurs from the moment that we wake up to the moment that we go to sleep. And what happens with our behaviors is that they change as a byproduct of our interactions with our environment. So, a lot of times you'll actually hear people say like, oh, I don't like ABA, I disagree with ABA, all of these kind of things, right? And honestly, the thing is that ABA is really the understanding of how our behaviors work and our behaviors change, and using that knowledge to change everyone's future. If you are a good teacher out there, if you're a good babysitter, if you know how to work with people, most likely you're using very effective ABA techniques. You just don't know it. And on the opposite side of it, if you're not very good at working with other people, if you're not very good at changing people's behaviors, most likely you're using very ineffective ABA techniques. And there is no, oh, I don't use ABA. You use ABA whether you recognize it or not. Every moment that your child is awake is a learning moment for them. They're either learning to do the right things or the wrong things. There is no, oh, I'm not doing anything to teach them. You're teaching them whether you want to teach them or you don't want to teach them. They're learning things as a byproduct of their interactions with you. And they're either learning the right things or learning the wrong things. And there is no, oh, I don't do anything with them. There is learning occurring whether you acknowledge it or don't acknowledge it. We learn through our interactions with our environment. Okay? So what does that actually mean? Okay. Well, first we're going to come to a term here called conditioning. Okay, and conditioning basically means how we learn, right? Like, it's conditioning is the same as learning. Those are synonymous terms for all intents and purposes for the layperson. So there are generally two ways that we learn. One way is called operant conditioning. And operant conditioning is learning through the consequences of our actions. So under operant conditioning, there's something called the law of effect. Okay, and the law of effect really basically states that, hey, when something pleasurable happens to us as a byproduct of what we do, we're more likely to redo those behaviors that have the pleasurable consequence. So if we eat something for the very first time and we find that, it's extremely enjoyable, we're more likely to eat that thing again. The law of effect also states that we're less likely we're going to stop behaviors that bring about unpleasant consequences to us. So if we eat something for the very first time, but it makes us sick or the taste just isn't right, we're not likely to eat the same thing again. So operant conditioning is learning through the consequences of our actions. When those consequences are pleasurable to us, we're more likely to repeat those behaviors. When those consequences are unpleasant, we're less likely to repeat those behaviors. So what does pleasurable, unpleasant, what does that really mean? Okay? And we're looking at enjoyment, right? Whether we enjoy doing something or we don't enjoy doing something. But really, enjoyment and the pleasure that we get from something really is an individual experience. It means that it differs from one person to another person. Famous saying that says, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Okay? And this is especially true when you're talking about whether we find something enjoyable or not. That the things that one person finds enjoyable, someone else may hate, and vice versa. Myself, I like bitter melon. All right, you cook bitter melon, and I enjoy eating it. Okay, so like, hey, it's bitter melon, yay! I really enjoy eating bitter melon. Okay, that's not everybody's experience. For somebody else, if you give them bitter melon, if they've never experienced it, it's highly likely they're not going to enjoy it. You have to really understand that our enjoyment of those things in our environment changes over time. It fluctuates from one moment to the next, from one day to the next, from 1 week to the next. And even for a lot of people in the field, they talk about reinforcement and punishment and those type of situations and events as being static events, meaning like, oh, they don't change. Oh, that this kid likes this thing and it's something that they will like forever and ever. And that's never true. That's not true for any of us, and it's not true for our kids.